Captain Hyun-woo Kim stared out of the observation deck of New Horizons Station. Earth hung below like a blue marble, peaceful and beautiful. He had no idea that in the next few hours, everything would change forever. The alarm bells started ringing across the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors as crew members ran to their positions. Something was coming through the jump point near Jupiter. Something big. "Captain, we have multiple contacts," called Lieutenant So-Young Lee from the communications center. "They're not human ships, sir." Hyun-woo felt his heart skip a beat. This was it. After decades of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. But the way his crew looked at him told him this might not be good news. The alien ships were massive. 20 vessels that looked like they were carved from black stone, covered in strange lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. They moved in perfect formation toward Earth's solar system, ignoring all attempts at communication. Admiral Sora Park arrived on the station 3 hours later. She was a tough woman who had spent her whole life preparing Earth's defenses for threats that might never come. Now those threats were real, and they were here. "What do we know?" she asked Hyun-woo as they watched the alien fleet through the main viewer. "They stopped just outside Mars orbit," he replied. "They've been sitting there for 2 hours. No response to any of our messages." "They're waiting for something," Sora said. Her voice was calm, but Hyun-woo could see the worry in her eyes. The waiting ended when a single alien ship broke away from the fleet. It was smaller than the others, but still twice the size of Earth's largest battleship. It moved toward New Horizons Station with slow, deliberate movements. "Incoming transmission," So-Young announced. "They're using our own communication frequencies." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that would haunt human nightmares for generations. The alien was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old leather. Its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "I am Ambassador Krelthak of the Galactic Coalition," it said. "You will prepare to receive me aboard your vessel. We have business to discuss." Hyun-woo looked at Admiral Park. She nodded once. "Tell them they can dock in Bay 7, she said. "But they come alone, and they submit to our security scans." The alien's mouth moved in what might have been a smile. "As you wish. You will learn soon enough that such precautions are meaningless." An hour later, Krelthak stood in the station's main conference room. Up close, the alien was even more unsettling. It wore no protective suit, breathing Earth's air as if it were natural. Its movements were too smooth, too controlled, like a predator that had never known fear. "Your species has achieved faster-than-light travel," Krelthak began without any greeting. "This brings you under coalition jurisdiction. I am here to deliver the terms of your integration." Admiral Park sat across from the alien, her hands folded, on the table. "Integration into what exactly?" "The Galactic Coalition has ruled this region of space for over 10,000 of your years," Krelthak replied. "We maintain order among lesser species. We provide protection from chaos. In return, member species contribute to the greater good." "And if we refuse?" Hyun-woo asked. The alien's black eyes turned toward him. "Refusal is not an option that ends well. We have integrated over 400 species. Some joined willingly, after seeing our strength. Others required persuasion." Krelthak produced a small device that projected a holographic display. Images appeared in the air showing dead worlds, cities turned to glass, entire civilizations reduced to ash and memory. "These were the stubborn ones," the alien said. "They chose to resist rather than accept their place in the natural order." Admiral Park leaned forward. "What exactly are you demanding from Earth?" "Your terms are standard for primitive species," Krelthak replied. "First, you will surrender all military vessels and weapons to coalition forces. Second, you will establish mining, operations to extract 70% of your planet's resources for coalition use. Third, you will provide 10% of your population annually to serve as labor on coalition worlds. The room fell silent. Hyun-woo felt sick to his stomach. They were talking about slavery on a massive scale, about stripping Earth bare and leaving humanity as servants to alien masters. "And if we agree to these terms?" Sora asked, her voice steady. "You will be protected from other threats. You will be allowed to govern your daily affairs as long as you meet your quotas. Your species will survive under coalition guidance. How long do we have to decide?" 30 of your Earth days, Krelthak said, standing up. "This is more time than we usually allow, but your species shows some interesting qualities. We would prefer integration to extinction." The alien moved toward the door, then paused. "Do not mistake our patience for weakness. The Coalition has fleets that could turn your sun cold. We have weapons that could crack your planet like an egg. We offer you the chance to live because we are generous, not because we are weak." After Krelthak left, the conference room stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, Admiral Park activated her communicator. "Emergency session of the Global Defense Council," she said. "All members, immediate attendance required." Over the next week, Earth's leaders met in continuous session. Some argued for accepting the alien terms. They pointed out humanity's technology was centuries behind the Coalition's. Fighting would mean certain death. Others, led by Admiral Park, refused to even consider surrender. "We've spent our entire history fighting for freedom," she told the Council. "We've fought kings and dictators and anyone who tried to make us slaves. Why should aliens be any different?" The debate raged for days. But in the end, humanity made the choice that would define their future among the stars. Commander Dong-hyun Lee was chosen to deliver Earth's response. He had fought in 3 wars and never backed down from a fight, even when the odds were hopeless. Krelthak returned to New Horizons Station exactly 30 days after his first visit. This time, he brought no escort ship. He seemed confident that Earth would accept the inevitable. "Have your leaders reached the correct decision?" he asked as he entered the conference room. Commander Lee stood at attention, his uniform pressed and his medals shining. "Earth's answer is simple and final," he said. "We reject your ultimatum. We will not surrender our weapons, our resources, or our people. Leave our system now or face the consequences." For the first time, Krelthak's composed expression changed. His black eyes widened slightly, and his mouth opened in what might have been surprise. "You cannot be serious," he said. "You have seen what happens to species that resist the Coalition." "We've seen what happens to species that surrender," Lee replied. "We choose to fight." Krelthak was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to laugh, a sound like breaking glass. "Your species lacks wisdom. We have destroyed civilizations that spanned galaxies. Your little planet will burn, and your children will curse your memory." The alien turned and walked away without another word. Within hours, his ship rejoined the fleet, and all 20 vessels jumped away from Earth's solar system. Admiral Park stood beside Commander Lee as they watched the aliens disappear. "Think they'll be back?" Lee asked. "Count on it," Park replied. "But at least we'll meet them as free humans, not as slaves." Neither of them knew that in the depths of space, the Coalition was already preparing the first of 8 fleets that would come for Earth. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin. The first alien fleet arrived 3 months after Krelthak's departure. 50 ships jumped into Earth's solar system like wolves entering a sheep pen. Their commander, war leader Vextar, expected the humans to surrender immediately when they saw Coalition might. Instead, he found Earth's forces waiting for them. Captain Ji-hoon Choi commanded the human fleet from his battleship Determination. He had spent the last 3 months preparing for this moment, studying every piece of data they had on Coalition ships and weapons. Remember, he told his captains over the communications channel. "We can't match their firepower ship to ship, but we know this system better than they do, and we're fighting for our homes." The coalition ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging for a devastating first strike. They expected the humans to meet them in open battle, where superior numbers and technology would win the day. The humans had other ideas. As the alien fleet approached Earth, it suddenly found itself flying through a cloud of asteroids that hadn't been there on their sensors. The rocks were small, barely big enough to register on their detectors, but each one was fitted with human-made explosives. The first coalition ship to hit the minefield simply vanished in a ball of fire. Then another. Within minutes, the perfect alien formation was chaos as ships tried to avoid the hidden weapons while human fighters attacked from all directions. Colonel Mi-Young-Han led her squadron of fighters through the asteroid belt like she was dancing. Her pilots knew every rock and hiding place in the field. They struck at the alien ships and disappeared before the coalition could respond. "These aren't the tactics of a primitive species," Vextar snarled as another of his ships exploded. "How did they learn to fight like this so quickly?" The answer was Dr. Seung-Min Park and his team of AI specialists. They had spent months analyzing coalition ship movements and battle patterns. Their computers could predict enemy actions faster than alien commanders could make decisions. When the first fleet finally retreated, they had lost 30 ships out of 50. The humans had lost 12, but the coalition wasn't finished. If the humans wanted to fight, they would give them a real war. The second fleet arrived 2 weeks later with 100 ships. The third came a month after that with another 150. Each time, the coalition commanders were confident that superior numbers would overwhelm human defenses. Each time, they were wrong. The humans adapted faster than anyone thought possible. What worked against the first fleet failed against the second. Tactics that destroyed the second fleet were useless against the third. Lieutenant Commander Ye Jin Song became a legend during the battle against the Fourth Fleet. While the main coalition force was busy fighting Admiral Park's battleships, Song led a small strike team deep behind enemy lines. Her target was the coalition command ship, a massive vessel that coordinated the entire alien fleet. Using captured alien technology, her team had built a virus that could shut down coalition computer systems. "We get one shot at this," she told her crew as their stealth ship approached the alien vessel. "If we mess up, the whole fleet dies." The insertion was perfect. Song's team boarded the coalition ship and fought their way to the computer core. But instead of just planting their virus, they did something the aliens never expected. They stole everything: coalition ship designs, weapons, specifications, star charts, communication codes, everything the aliens had learned in 10,000 years of conquest. The humans downloaded it all in 15 minutes. When they escaped, they left behind more than just a virus. They left the coalition command ship floating dead in space while its fleet scattered in confusion. Human engineers studied the stolen technology with an intensity that amazed even their own leaders. Dr. Chang-Min Lee's team at Lunar Research Station worked 20-hour days to understand alien science. "It's not that their technology is so advanced," Dr. Lee explained to Admiral Park. "It's that they've stopped trying to improve it. They've been using the same designs for thousands of years because they've never had to change. That gave humanity its greatest advantage." While the coalition relied on old, proven methods, humans kept inventing new ones. Engineer Hye-Won Kim developed quantum torpedoes that could punch through coalition shields like they were paper. Her weapons turned the tide in the battle against the Sixth Fleet, allowing human forces to destroy alien dreadnoughts for the first time. But the coalition kept coming. The Seventh Fleet brought 2,000 ships, including vessels the size of small cities. The Eighth Fleet was even larger, with weapons that could crack moons. These battles raged across the entire solar system. Human colonies on Mars and the Jupiter moons found themselves on the front lines of a war they had never asked for. Captain Tae-Ho Lim gave his life defending the Mars colonies from the Seventh Fleet. When his ship was surrounded and outnumbered 10-1, he made a choice that saved millions of lives. "Tell my wife I love her," he said over the radio. Then he rammed his battleship into the Coalition flagship at full speed. The explosion lit up the Martian sky like a second sun. The Coalition command ship was destroyed, and its fleet retreated in confusion. But Lim and his entire crew were gone. The Eighth Fleet came with a new strategy. Instead of trying to fight human ships directly, they targeted civilian populations. Coalition commanders thought that if they killed enough innocent people, humanity would surrender to save lives. They were wrong again. The attacks on civilian targets didn't break human will. They made it stronger. Every destroyed colony became a rallying cry. Every murdered civilian became a reason to fight harder. Admiral Park addressed the entire human fleet after the Eighth Battle. Her words were broadcast to every ship, every station, every colony in human space. "They think they can break us by killing our families," she said. "They think fear will make us weak. But they don't understand humanity. We don't fight because we're not afraid. We fight because we are afraid, and we refuse to let fear control us." The Eighth Fleet retreated after losing half its ships to human forces that fought with desperate courage. But as it jumped away from the solar system, its commander sent a message that chilled human hearts. "You have impressed the Coalition," War Leader Vextar transmitted. "No primitive species has ever destroyed 8 of our fleets. For this reason, we are sending our greatest commander with our most powerful fleet. Supreme War Commander Zek Thul comes with 10,000 ships. Make peace with your gods, humans. Your time is over." In the months that followed, human space buzzed with activity. The victories against 8 coalition fleets had bought them time, but everyone knew the real test was coming. Dr. Min-Ho Kim worked frantically on Project Prometheus, a secret weapon that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. Captain Jae-sung Oh volunteered for suicide missions to gather intelligence on the approaching enemy fleet. And in the depths of space, something was moving toward Earth that would test every lesson humanity had learned about war among the stars. The Coalition had learned to respect human fighting spirit. Now they were sending their absolute best to end the war once and for all. The question was no longer whether humanity could win. The question was whether they could survive what was coming. Between the attacks from coalition fleets, humanity transformed itself in ways that amazed even their own leaders. The species that had once been trapped on a single planet now spread across the solar system like wildfire. Dr. Chang-Min Lee stood in his laboratory on Luna Station, surrounded by pieces of alien technology that would have been impossible to understand just months before. His team had learned to reverse-engineer coalition devices faster than the aliens had originally built them. "Look at this," he said to his assistant, Dr. Yoon-ji Yoon, holding up a small crystal device. "This is their jump drive core. It took them centuries to develop. We figured out how it works in 3 weeks." Yoon-ji studied the readouts on her computer screen. "It's not just that we're learning fast," she said. "We're improving on their designs. This modified version can jump twice, as far as the original. That was the pattern everywhere in human space. Whatever the coalition had done, humans did it better, faster, and with innovations the aliens had never considered." Professor Yoon-ji Yoon led the team that developed humanity's first jump drives. But she didn't stop at copying coalition technology. She rebuilt it from the ground up, making it smaller, more efficient, and capable of jumps the aliens thought were impossible. "The coalition thinks in straight lines," she explained to Admiral Park during a briefing. "They go from point A to point B, but space isn't a straight line. With our new drives, we can go from point A to point C by way of point Z." This breakthrough changed everything. Human ships could now appear anywhere in the solar system instantly. More importantly, they could leave it. Captain Byung-ho Nam commanded the first human fleet to venture beyond Earth's solar system. His mission was simple but revolutionary. Take the fight to the enemy. His target was a Coalition refueling station in the Proxima Centauri system. Intelligence gathered from captured alien ships showed it was lightly defended but vital to Coalition operations in this region of space. "Remember," Nam told his squadron as they prepared to jump, "we're not just attacking a supply depot. We're sending a message. Earth doesn't just defend itself anymore. Earth fights back." The attack was perfect. Nam's ships appeared without warning. In the Proxima system, destroyed the refueling station and its escorts, then jumped away before reinforcements could arrive. The entire battle lasted less than an hour. News of the attack spread through Coalition space like a shockwave. For 10,000 years, primitive species had never dared to strike at Coalition territory. Now humans were hunting Coalition ships, in their own systems. Back on Earth, General Insu Park was revolutionizing human military doctrine. The old strategy of defending fixed positions was replaced by something the Coalition had never seen before: total war. "We're not fighting to protect our borders anymore," he told his staff officers. "We're fighting to win. That means taking the battle to them, hitting them where they don't expect it, making them afraid to leave their own systems." Under his guidance, Deep Strike Command was created with Commander Soo-Jin Kim as its leader. These elite forces specialized in long-range attacks on Coalition targets, using the new jump drives to strike anywhere in known space. Kim's first major operation targeted a Coalition supply convoy carrying weapons to attack human colonies. Her small fleet intercepted the aliens between star systems, destroyed the convoy, and captured enough advanced weapons to arm an entire human battle group. "The beauty of it," she reported to Admiral Park, "is that they never saw us coming. Their sensors can't track our new jump signatures. We're invisible until we want to be seen." But the most important changes were happening in the minds of humanity itself. The species that had once fought each other over patches of dirt now worked together with a unity that amazed observers. Dr. Sung-Min Park's AI systems coordinated defense efforts across dozens of worlds. Information flowed instantly from the outer colonies to Earth Command. When Coalition scouts appeared in one system, every human fleet in nearby space knew about it within minutes. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Human ships appeared where Coalition. Commanders thought they were safe. Supply lines that had been secure for centuries suddenly became death traps. But perhaps the most shocking change was in human psychology. The species that the Coalition had dismissed as barely sentient warmongers was proving that their violent nature made them incredibly dangerous opponents. Captain Wu Jin Jiang led deep space reconnaissance missions that penetrated far into Coalition territory. His job was to gather intelligence on enemy fleet movements and find weaknesses in their defenses. What he found was an empire in growing panic. "Their member species are starting to ask questions," he reported after returning from a mission near the Coalition capital. "If humans can destroy 8 fleets and attack their supply lines, what else might they be capable of?" This was exactly what Admiral Park had hoped for. The Coalition maintained control through fear and the appearance of invincibility. But humans were proving that the Coalition could be beaten. On worlds that had been subjugated for centuries, rebellions began to break out. Species that had never dared to resist Coalition rule suddenly found the courage to fight back. They might not have human technology, but they had something just as powerful: hope. The Coalition response was predictable. They sent punishment fleets to crush the rebellions, but this only spread their forces thinner. Ships that should have been attacking Earth were instead dealing with uprisings across Coalition space. Commander Yuna Shin led a diplomatic mission to one of the rebel worlds, the first official contact between humanity and another alien species. The meeting was dangerous. Coalition fleets were hunting for the rebels, but the results were worth the risk. "They're not asking us to fight their war for them," she reported to Earth Command. "They're asking us to teach them how to fight it themselves." Soon, human advisors were spreading across rebel worlds, sharing technology and tactics with species that had been slaves for generations. The Coalition's empire was cracking from within, but even as humanity celebrated these victories, everyone knew the real test was coming. Intelligence reports spoke of a massive fleet gathering in Coalition space, led by their greatest military commander. Dr. Min-Ho Kim worked frantically on Project Prometheus in secret laboratories scattered across the solar system. The stolen Coalition technology had given him insights into physics that human science had never dreamed of. "We're not just building better weapons," he explained to the small group of scientists who knew about the project. "We're building weapons. That shouldn't be possible. The Coalition thinks they know the rules of space combat. We're about to show them that the rules can be changed. The project was humanity's greatest gamble. If it worked, they might survive the coming storm. If it failed, the Earth would burn and human civilization would end." But that was still in the future. For now, humanity was spreading across the galaxy like a virus in the Coalition's bloodstream. Human ships appeared in systems the aliens thought were secure. Human agents stirred rebellion on worlds that had been peaceful for centuries. The species that had once been trapped on a single planet was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. A predator that hunted among the stars. Admiral Park stood in the command center of New Horizon Station, watching reports flow in from across human space. Victories, setbacks, new discoveries, desperate battles, all of it building toward the confrontation everyone knew was coming. "What have we become?" asked Captain Kim, looking at the tactical displays showing human fleets scattered across a dozen star systems. Park smiled grimly. "We've become what we always were," she said, "the species that refuses to quit. The Coalition just gave us a bigger playground." In the depths of space, Supreme War Commander Zek Thul was gathering the largest fleet in Coalition history. 10,000 ships, weapons that could crack planets, warriors from a dozen species united in their hatred of humanity. But as he prepared for the final battle, Zek Thul had no idea what humans had become during their months of war. He still thought of them as the primitive species that had rejected his ultimatum. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Supreme War Commander Zekthul stood on the command bridge of his flagship Galaxy's End, watching the largest fleet in Coalition history assemble before him. 10,000 ships stretched across space like a metal constellation, each one a testament to the Coalition's power. He was the Coalition's greatest military mind, a commander who had conquered entire star systems and crushed rebellions that had lasted centuries. In his 300 years of service, he had never lost a major battle. He did not intend to start now. "Status report," he commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. Fleet Commander Mortok stepped forward with a data pad. "All battle groups, report ready. Supreme Commander. We have ships from 12 member species, including the elite guard units from the capital worlds." Zekthul nodded with satisfaction. This was not just a fleet. It was a statement. The Coalition was sending their absolute best to end the human problem once and for all. The composition of the Ninth Fleet was carefully chosen. The Kethron provided their massive dreadnoughts, ships capable of cracking planets with their main guns. The Veltari brought their lightning-fast destroyers, perfect for hunting down human fighters. The Zorgak warrior caste had volunteered, their entire battle fleet, eager to prove their worth against the upstart humans. But the heart of the fleet was the Galaxy's End itself, Zekthul's personal flagship. The massive vessel was more than just a ship. It was a mobile command center, capable of coordinating thousands of vessels across multiple star systems. Its weapons could destroy entire human fleets with a single volley. The humans have impressed. "Our previous commanders with their tactics," Zekthul told his assembled fleet captains during the pre-battle briefing. "They use their knowledge of local space and superior numbers to overcome individual ships. But tactics cannot overcome overwhelming force." He activated the holographic display showing the planned battle formation. We will not repeat the mistakes of the first 8 fleets. We will not be drawn into asteroid fields or trapped by clever maneuvers. We will advance in full strength and crush their resistance through pure firepower. The plan was simple and brutal. The Ninth Fleet would jump directly into Earth's solar system and advance on the human home world in battle formation. Any human, ships that tried to stop them would be destroyed. Any stations or colonies in their path would be obliterated. By the time they reached Earth orbit, human resistance would be broken. But even as Zekthul prepared his fleet for departure, he received troubling reports from across Coalition space. Rebellions were breaking out on member worlds that had been peaceful for centuries. Supply convoys were disappearing. Communication relays were being destroyed by unknown attackers. The humans are trying to distract us, Fleet Commander Mortok suggested. They hope to divide our attention and weaken our resolve. Perhaps, Zekthul replied, studying the tactical displays. But it matters little. Once we destroy their home world, their far-flung operations will collapse. Cut off the head, and the body dies. Meanwhile, in Earth's solar system, Admiral Ao Sora Park was receiving her own intelligence reports. Commander Wu Jin Jiang's deep space reconnaissance had finally located the Ninth Fleet, and the numbers were terrifying. 10,000 ships, she told the emergency session of Earth Command, including at least 50 of their largest dreadnoughts. This isn't just another attack fleet, it's their entire military power concentrated in one place. The room fell silent, as the implications sank in. The first 8 fleets had tested human ingenuity and courage. The Ninth Fleet would test whether humanity could survive at all. General Insu Park leaned forward in his chair. Our intelligence suggests they plan to advance directly on Earth in full formation. No clever tactics, no divided attacks, just overwhelming force. Which means our usual strategies won't work, Admiral Park replied. We can't use the asteroid belt for cover against 10,000 ships. We can't hit and run against a force that... Large! This time we have to meet them head-on. For the first time since the war began, doubt crept into the room. Human forces had grown during the months of conflict, but they still numbered less than 2,000 ships total. Even with their technological advantages, the odds seemed impossible. That was when Dr. Min-Ho Kim spoke up from his seat at the back of the room. Project Prometheus is ready for field testing, he said quietly. Every head in the room turned toward him. The secret project had been humanity's most closely guarded secret, known only to a handful of scientists and military leaders. Are you certain? Admiral Park asked. We'll only get one chance to use it. Dr. Kim nodded. The theoretical work is solid. The prototypes have passed every test, but... He paused, looking uncomfortable. We're dealing with physics that push the boundaries of what we understand. There could be unexpected consequences. Worse than extinction? Asked Commander Lee. I don't know, Kim admitted. That's the problem. We're entering uncharted territory. The debate that followed would determine humanity's fate. Some argued for evacuating Earth and fighting a guerrilla war from the outer colonies. Others suggested attempting to negotiate with Zekthul, offering limited surrender in exchange for survival. But in the end, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would make its stand at Earth, using every weapon and advantage they possessed. If they were going to die, they would die as free humans, not as slaves to an alien empire. Captain Jae Sung-oh volunteered for the most dangerous mission of the war. His job was to take a small squadron of fast ships and delay the Ninth Fleet's advance, buying Earth precious time to complete its preparations. You know this is a suicide mission, Admiral Park told him privately. Yes, ma'am, Oh replied. But if Project Prometheus works, those extra hours might make the difference. And if it doesn't work, we're all dead anyway. His squadron launched. 3 days before the Ninth Fleet was scheduled to arrive. 12 small ships against 10,000, carrying experimental weapons and the hopes of an entire species. They intercepted Zekthul's fleet at the edge of the solar system, near the orbit of Neptune. The battle was brief and desperate. O's ships struck at the coalition formation like wasps attacking a giant, inflicting minimal damage, but forcing the enemy to slow their advance to deal with the threat. Captain O himself lasted until the end, his ship dancing between massive alien dreadnoughts while his weapons pecked away at their shields. When his ship finally exploded in a ball of fire, he had bought Earth 18 precious hours. "Brave little fighters," Zekthul commented as he watched the last human ship die. But ultimately pointless. Resume course for the third planet. He had no idea that those 18 hours would change the course of galactic history. On Earth, the final preparations for Project Prometheus were completed in underground facilities that had been working around the clock for months. The weapons were unlike anything that had ever existed, devices that could manipulate space and time itself, turning the laws of physics into tools of war. Dr. Kim personally oversaw the final tests, knowing that any mistake could destroy not just the weapons, but potentially the entire solar system. "The theory is sound," he told his team as they prepared the final activation sequences. "But we're about to find out if reality agrees with our calculations." Admiral Park took personal command of the human fleet from her flagship Defiance. Every ship in Earth's forces was present. Battle-tested veterans and newly constructed vessels, fighters and battleships, all united in humanity's final gamble. As the Ninth Fleet approached the inner solar system, both sides prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of two species. The coalition came with overwhelming numbers and proven weapons. Humanity came with desperate courage and technologies that pushed the boundaries of the possible. Neither side knew what would happen when they finally met in battle, but everyone understood that when the fighting ended, the galaxy would never be the same. The stage was set for humanity's greatest test. In a few hours, they would either prove themselves worthy of survival among the stars, or they would join the long list of species that had dared to defy the coalition and paid the ultimate price. Supreme War Commander Zekthul smiled as Earth appeared on his tactical displays. Soon, the human problem would be solved forever. The Ninth Fleet entered the inner solar system like a tide of death. 10,000 ships in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready to end human civilization forever. Supreme War Commander Zekthul stood on his flagship's bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the tactical display. "The humans are moving to intercept us," Fleet Commander Mortok reported. "Their entire fleet is advancing from behind the fourth planet." Zekthul studied the enemy formation with professional interest. Less than 2,000 human ships against his 10,000. Even with their clever tactics and stolen technology, the outcome was inevitable. "They're braver than I expected," he admitted. "Most species surrender when they see odds like these. But courage without wisdom is just another form of stupidity." Admiral Sora Park stood on the bridge of her flagship Defiance, looking at the massive alien fleet that filled her tactical screens. Every human ship in the solar system was here, from massive battleships to tiny fighters. This was humanity's entire military force, gathered for one final battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," she broadcast on the fleet communication channel. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to exist among the stars. Win or lose, we will show the galaxy what free humans are capable of." The two fleets approached each other across the vast emptiness between Mars and Earth. As they drew closer, the true scale of the coalition force became apparent. Their ships blocked out the stars, a wall of metal and weapons that seemed to stretch forever. Captain Kyung-ho Lee commanded the experimental stealth destroyer Shadow Strike, one of the first ships equipped with the new cloaking technology developed from stolen coalition science. His mission was to penetrate the enemy formation and strike at their command ships. Engaging Cloak, he told his crew as they approached the alien fleet. From here on, we're invisible. Let's make them regret coming to our system. The Shadow Strike vanished from all sensors, becoming a ghost ship that could strike without warning. Lee guided his vessel through the coalition formation like a shark swimming among whales, looking for the perfect target. Meanwhile, Commander Yuna Shin coordinated the largest drone swarm in human history. Thousands of unmanned fighters launched from every human ship. Their AI systems networked together in ways the coalition had never seen before. The drones moved like a single organism, responding to threats faster than any biological pilot could react. When coalition fighters tried to intercept them, the entire swarm adapted instantly, flowing around obstacles like water. "Their attack patterns are impossible," reported a coalition squadron leader as his fighters were torn apart by the coordinated assault. "They're anticipating our moves before we make them." The secret was Dr. Sung-Min Park's advanced AI systems, which had been analyzing coalition tactics for months. The computers knew how alien pilots would react to any situation, giving the human drones an almost supernatural ability to predict enemy movements. But the real shock came when the human fleet began deploying Project Prometheus weapons. The first device activated near the center of the coalition formation. Space itself seemed to twist and bend around the weapon, creating a localized distortion in reality. Coalition ships that had been flying in perfect formation suddenly found themselves scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. "What is that?" Zekthul demanded, staring at his tactical display in confusion. "What are they doing to space itself?" His science officers had no answers. The readings from their sensors made no sense. According to their instruments, the humans were somehow manipulating the fundamental structure of space-time itself. A second Prometheus device activated near the coalition's left flank. This one created a gravity well that pulled enemy ships together like a magnetic field, attracting iron filings. Coalition vessels collided with each other as their pilots lost control, creating a chain reaction of explosions and debris. Captain Lee struck at that moment, his cloaked destroyer appearing in the middle of the confusion to launch a spread of quantum torpedoes at a coalition dreadnought. The massive ship exploded like a miniature sun, its destruction visible from Earth itself. "Impossible," Zekthul whispered, watching his carefully planned formation dissolve into chaos. "They're using technologies that violate the fundamental laws of physics." But the worst was yet to come. As more Prometheus devices activated across the battlefield, reality itself began to behave strangely. Some coalition ships found themselves flying backward through time, experiencing the same moments over and over again. Others were caught in spatial loops, unable to escape invisible barriers that had no physical existence. The human fleet pressed. Their advantage, their conventional weapons supported by reality-warping devices that turned the coalition's numerical superiority against them. Enemy ships collided with allies who existed in different time streams. Weapons fire curved through. Impossible angles to strike targets that should have been safe. Fleet Commander Mortok grabbed Zekthul's arm in panic. "Supreme Commander, we must retreat. Our ships are being destroyed by forces we don't understand." But Zekthul was a veteran of 1,000 battles. He had not conquered half a galaxy by running from the first sign of unusual tactics. "All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship," he ordered. "If we can destroy their command vessel, their coordination will collapse." The galaxy's end turned its massive weapons toward the Defiance, preparing to unleash enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. But as Zekthul gave the order to fire, something impossible happened. His ship began to fade. It started slowly, like a photograph left in sunlight. The edges of the vessel became transparent, then the hull itself began to lose substance. Zekthul could see through his own walls to the stars beyond. "What is happening to us?" he screamed at his panicking crew. The answer came from Dr. Min-Ho Kim, watching from his control station on Earth. Project Prometheus had succeeded beyond his wildest calculations. The weapons weren't just manipulating space and time. They were editing reality itself, removing objects from existence as if they had never been. One by one, the ships of the Ninth Fleet simply stopped being. Not destroyed, not retreating. Erased from reality as completely as if they had never been built. The massive dreadnoughts faded like ghosts, their crews disappearing along with their vessels. Zekthul had time for one final transmission before. His flagship vanished completely. "This is impossible," he broadcast to any ship that could still hear him. "No species can command the fundamental forces of existence. What have you humans become?" Admiral Park answered from her bridge, her voice carried across space to the few Coalition survivors who remained. "We've become what you forced us to become," she said. "We've become the species that refuses to die quietly." The galaxy's end completed its fade into nothingness, taking Supreme War Commander Zekthul with it. Within hours, the entire Ninth Fleet had vanished, leaving only empty space where 10,000 ships had fought and died. The few Coalition vessels that managed to escape carried impossible stories back to their empire. They spoke of humans who could make fleets disappear, of weapons that violated the laws of physics, of a species that had transcended the normal boundaries of war. Captain Lee brought the Shadow Strike back to the human fleet, its cloaking device, deactivating to reveal a ship that had somehow survived the impossible battle. "Admiral," he reported, "the Coalition fleet is gone, all of it. I've never seen anything like it." Admiral Park looked at the empty space where the largest fleet in galactic history had been just hours before. The tactical displays showed nothing but debris from a few unlucky human ships that had been caught in the reality distortions. "Get me Dr. Kim," she ordered. When the scientist appeared on her communication screen, his face was pale with exhaustion and something that might have been fear. "It worked," he said simply, "but I'm not sure we should be celebrating. We've opened doors that might be better left closed." Park nodded grimly. "The question now is what happens when word of this reaches the Coalition capital. 10,000. Ships don't just disappear without consequences." She was right. At that very moment, the survivors of the Ninth Fleet were racing back to Coalition space, carrying news that would shake their empire to its foundations. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had demonstrated power that challenged everything the Coalition thought they knew about the universe. In the depths of space, ancient species that had served the Coalition for millennia began to ask themselves a simple question. If humans could make the Ninth Fleet vanish, what else might they be capable of? The war was far from over, but for the first time in 10,000 years, the Coalition was afraid. The news spread across Coalition space like wildfire through dry grass. The Ninth Fleet was gone. Not destroyed, not defeated, vanished. 10,000 ships and their crews had simply stopped existing, as if the universe itself had decided they no longer belonged. Supreme Chancellor Mordak sat in his great council chamber on the Coalition capital world, reading the reports with growing disbelief. In 10,000 years of galactic dominance, nothing like this had ever happened. The survivors all tell the same story, his intelligence chief reported, his voice shaking with fear. The humans used weapons that manipulate reality itself. Ships were erased from existence. Space and time were twisted into weapons. Mordak crushed the datapad in his clawed hand. He was the absolute ruler of over 400 species, commander of fleets that could burn stars. But for the first time in his long life, he was afraid. The panic began on the outer worlds. Species that had been loyal Coalition members for centuries started asking dangerous questions. If humans could destroy the Ninth Fleet, what did that say about Coalition invincibility? If the mighty Zekthul and his flagship could simply vanish, what protection did the Coalition really offer? On the industrial world of Kethra, workers abandoned their factories and refused to produce weapons for Coalition fleets. On Veltar Prime, the planetary government declared independence and requested protection from Earth. Across Coalition space, the empire that had seemed unshakable began to crack. But nowhere was the panic greater than in the Coalition military itself. Officers who had served proudly for decades began to question their orders. Why should they risk their ships against an enemy that could erase them from existence? Fleet Commander Torval was one of the few survivors of the Ninth Fleet. His damaged cruiser limped back to Coalition space, carrying the impossible news of humanity's new power. "They're not the primitive species we first encountered," he reported to the Emergency Military Council. "They've become something else. Something that can command forces we don't understand." The Coalition's response was predictable but desperate. If they couldn't defeat humanity with conventional forces, they would try overwhelming numbers. Orders went out to every fleet, every garrison, every military installation in Coalition space. Converge on Earth's solar system and destroy the human threat at any cost. But the orders were largely ignored. Ship captains found excuses to delay their departure. Planetary governors claimed their fleets were needed for local defense. For the first time in Coalition history, military discipline began to break down. Meanwhile, human ships began appearing throughout Coalition space with a new mission. Captain Sang Ho Yoon led the first official diplomatic fleet beyond Earth's solar system, but this was diplomacy backed by demonstrated power. His destination was Zorgak Prime, homeworld of one of the Coalition's most warlike species. The Zorgak had contributed heavily to the Ninth Fleet, and their survivors had carried home stories of human power that terrified their usually fearless warriors. "We come in peace," Yoon broadcast as his small fleet entered the Zorgak system. "But we also come with a demonstration of what happens to those who threaten humanity." The demonstration was brief but effective. A single Prometheus device activated in the empty space between planets, creating a reality distortion that lasted only seconds. But in those seconds, a small asteroid simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only the memory that it had once been there. The effect on the Zorgak was immediate. These were warriors who had never shown fear in battle, but they had never faced an enemy that could edit reality. Within hours, the planetary government formally requested to join what humans were calling the Protectorate, an alliance of species under Earth's protection. Similar scenes played out across Coalition space. Admiral Ji-won Park announced the formation of the Human Protectorate from her new flagship, the Liberty, broadcasting the message to every star system in known space. "To all species currently under Coalition rule," she said, "humanity offers you a choice. Continue to serve masters who see you as slaves, or join us in building something better. We offer protection to any world that rejects Coalition authority and embraces freedom." The response was overwhelming. Entire star systems declared independence from the Coalition and requested human protection. Species that had been enslaved for millennia suddenly found the courage to fight back, knowing that Earth would support them. Dr. Hae-young Kim, who had taken over Project Prometheus after her colleague's nervous breakdown, tried to explain to Earth's leaders what humanity had become. "We've crossed a threshold," she said during a meeting of the Global Defense Council. "The weapons we've created don't just manipulate matter and energy. They manipulate information itself, the basic code that defines what exists and what doesn't. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just won a war, they had transcended the normal limitations of physical existence. They could rewrite reality at will, making their enemies simply stop being. But with this power came responsibility. Captain Wu Jin-jang's intelligence reports showed that some human commanders were getting drunk on their new abilities. There were incidents of entire Coalition patrol fleets vanishing without warning, their crews given no chance to surrender. "We have to be careful," Admiral Park warned during a command meeting. "Power like this can corrupt us if we're not vigilant. We didn't fight this war to become the new oppressors." The Coalition's final desperate attempt came when Supreme Chancellor Mordak himself led a fleet toward Earth. Not to attack, even he wasn't that foolish anymore, but to surrender. His message reached Earth Command before his ship entered the solar system. I request an audience with the human leadership. The Coalition formally surrenders all claims to Earth and its territories. We seek terms for peace. The meeting took place aboard New Horizon Station, where the war had begun with Krelthak's Ultimatum. This time, the roles were reversed. Mordak, once the absolute ruler of 400 species, sat across from Admiral Park as a supplicant. "Your species has achieved something we thought impossible," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "You have transcended the normal rules of warfare. The Coalition can no longer resist you." Admiral Park studied the alien leader with cold eyes. She remembered the arrogance of his ambassador, the threats against human civilization, the millions who had died fighting Coalition fleets. "We're not accepting surrenders," she said finally. "We're accepting applications to join a better way of doing things." Mordak looked confused. "I don't understand." "The Coalition is finished," Park explained, "but that doesn't mean your species have to suffer. Those who embrace freedom and cooperation will find a place in the new order. Those who cling to the old ways of conquest and slavery will find themselves very much alone in a galaxy that no longer fears them." Over the following months, the transformation of galactic civilization accelerated. The human protectorate grew to include hundreds of worlds and dozens of species. Human technology and ideals spread throughout known space, bringing concepts like individual rights and democratic government to societies that had never imagined such things. But perhaps the most important change was in humanity itself. The species that had once been trapped on a single world now shepherded entire star systems. Human ships patrolled trade routes that spanned galaxies, protecting the weak and ensuring that no new coalition could rise to threaten freedom. Dr. Chang Min Lee, now director of the Galactic Research Institute, worked to understand the full implications of humanity's new abilities. His team studied the remains of coalition technology and the theoretical physics behind Project Prometheus, pushing the boundaries of knowledge ever further. "We've become something unique in the galaxy," he reported to Earth's government. "Not just another conquering species, but guardians of possibility itself. We can literally make the impossible happen." The final irony came when the few remaining Coalition loyalists made their last stand at the original Coalition capital. They had gathered their most fanatical followers and their most powerful ships, determined to die fighting rather than accept the new order. They never got the chance. When the human fleet arrived, led by Captain Kyung-Ho Lee in his new command ship Prometheus, the Coalition forces simply weren't there anymore. The entire battle fleet, along with the planetary defenses and military installations, had been edited out of existence before the first shot was fired. Only the civilian population remained, looking up at human ships that had appeared in their skies without violence or destruction. Within days, the planet had voted to join the Protectorate. A year after the war ended, Admiral Sora Park stood once again on the observation deck of New Horizon Station. Earth still hung below like a blue marble, but now it was the center of an empire that spanned the galaxy. "Any regrets?" asked Captain Kim, joining her at the viewport. Park was quiet for a long moment, thinking of all the battles fought and lives lost, of the impossible journey from a single threatened world to the guardians of galactic civilization. "Just one," she said finally. "I regret that it took an alien threat to unite humanity. Imagine what we could have accomplished if we'd learned to work together earlier." Kim nodded, then smiled. "Well, we have all the time in the galaxy to find out now.